I was going to say good morning. We're almost at good afternoon, about a minute away from noon. And I know I'm the guy that's keeping you from lunch, so I'll try to make sure that we can be done in an hour. Happy birthday, IFPRI. I have the pleasure of being with a distinguished set of speakers this morning. And this panel will focus on the role of markets, trade, and macro policies in aiding the poor throughout the planet. And this issue of what impacts markets, trade, and macro policies have on poor has been critical in the last 40 years that IFPRI has been there, even before that. In fact, it seeded the birth of IFPRI in some ways, right after the crisis of the early 1970s. And the 2007-8 commodity price crisis again tells you markets, trade, and macro policies are relevant. And I anticipate this issue to be relevant going forward. So, when we talk about the poor in this context, we are not only talking about the poor that are dependent on agriculture and reside in rural areas. We are also concerned about those that reside in rural areas but not necessarily tied to agriculture, as well as the rapidly growing population in urban areas that are poor. Okay? So I think the panelists are focused on these dimensions. What I want to do is, first of all, introduce our speakers and then invite each one of them to share their thoughts with you. And as I said, this is a distinguished set of speakers. I'm honored to be here. Let me first introduce Dr. Maximo Torero, the Director of Markets, Trade, and Institutions Division at IFPRI. And then Alberto Valdez, Research Associate at Catholic University of Chile, has been with IFPRI for a long time. Alberto. Ross Garnett. He is the Professorial Research Fellow, University of Melbourne, and also the former IFPRI Board Chair. Peter Timmer, Emeritus Professor of Development Studies at Harvard University. And last but not least, Leanne Jackson, Counselor in the Agriculture and Commodities Division at World Trade Organization. So with that introduction, let me invite Maximo to share his thoughts on IFPRI's role in this particular context.